Greetings and welcome to my presentation on business continuity for the protection of critical transportation infrastructure. First, to start off, what is critical transportation infrastructure? Well, it's our highways, connecting bridges, tunnels, railways, utilities, and buildings necessary to maintain normalcy in daily, every day-to-day life. Transportation, commerce, clean water, and electricity all rely on these vital systems. And I'm just looking here at the terminology just to give you kind of an idea of uh, what the concepts are. Business continuity, on the other hand, refers to how an organization can protect its assets and continue business processes, key business processes, after disaster or catastrophe. So you have two pieces of that: business continuity management, the actual management of the plans to continue uh, normal operations in business. And you also have business continuity planning, which is a huge piece, two kind of separate processes that cannot exist without one another. So looking at the modern US transportation system, it is a large decentralized network, again, of roadways, railways, waterways, airways. So think of airports and uh, ports themselves, right, for shipping of goods that safely and efficiently move people and goods and preserve the economic viability of societies and businesses. So the problem is disruption and even the threat of disruption to critical transportation infrastructures. We recently had the Colonial Pipeline disruption not very long ago from the date of this recording, where the Southeast was without gasoline and it caused panic buying and shortages and just a mess in terms of impact to the economy. That was a major disruption, right? Hurricane Katrina, another disruption, classic. Um, and these disruptions can be man-made, I should say, and or imposed by us on us by others. So cyber attacks, nefarious kind of attacks, and you'll see here in the conceptual framework that cyber posture, and I realize it's a little small, cyber posture is a huge piece of what's required to go into this. So I have two research questions, really. They are, what decision support systems should managers incorporate into their business continuity plans to protect critical transportation infrastructure against disruption? And also, what data should managers incorporate into their business continuity plans to protect CTI against disruption? So what my research has shown so far is that in order to develop any decision support system, which we haven't even gotten to yet, what is a decision support system? You can read in the terminology. We're thinking mostly software, but it could be pretty much anything we agree to feed data into to help us make decisions in an organization. So what the research has shown is that before we can have any type of decision support system, we need high quality data, right? And that is historical data. So accidents and events that have occurred that have disrupted businesses, and specifically in the context of transportation, because we're talking about CTI, critical transportation infrastructure, and looking at how that data can be fed into a system or piece of software to help make decisions to thwart or prevent future disruption. And also, part of business continuity management, a large piece, and what distinguishes it from just disaster recovery is that you have the recovery piece in there as well, or I should say disaster management as well. Business continuity plans include plans for the recovery of normal operations. In the case of critical transportation infrastructure, if a bridge, if a tunnel is attacked, and it could be a cyber attack, right? Like the Colonial Pipeline was a cyber attack. how fast can you get back to normalcy? How fast can your business, and in this case, again, critical transportation, not only infrastructure, but assets, right? Assets themselves, the physical spaces that we use, and underpin our economy and the world economy, right? So a few different lenses I brought in here. You have absorptive capacity theory, or AC, and that is an organizational, um, they're routines and processes by which firms can acquire, assimilate, transform, and exploit knowledge to produce a dynamic organizational capability. What does that mean? It means taking in data, again, high quality data, and being able to use it to help you to recover, or in the original case of the theory, it is to gain a competitive edge, right? So this could be applied to any organization looking for an edge or leg up, so to speak, in business. In terms of CTI, we are hoping to save lives, right? So it is an important topic because, again, many of our economic engines run with the assumption that the transportation infrastructure that we have in place is adequate and continuously available. And that is where the HRO theory comes in, which is a high reliability organization. It's an organization that has successfully avoided catastrophes, where accidents and potential accidents can be expected due to risk and complexity. Very important because the threat of disruption itself, not it doesn't even have to be an actual disaster to have occurred, but just the threat, the looming threat. And we talk about the threat landscape in cybersecurity. It's constantly evolving, and that is the case just as well with critical transportation infrastructure, which, by the way, is statistically, from the research, one of the most targeted maliciously by bad actors pieces of infrastructure that uh, hackers seem to want to take down, right? Because it can cripple a society. So we think of terrorism, um, again, natural events. Flooding is a huge concept in the research as well. Um, and in places like Iowa, for example, not a place you would necessarily associate with uh, the Dakotas as well. Those are places that are having seeing the bad effects of disruption and grappling with what that means in terms of business continuity and how they will get back online and how they will continue with normal operations, which is to say, keeping the lifeblood of the economy flowing. So, the purpose of my study is to examine the essential components of data and decision support systems. So, again, hand in hand, that managers responsible for protecting critical infrastructure, and that includes you and I, can incorporate into their business continuity plans to protect against disruption. That's really what it's all about. So you can see here the research question, a few other preliminary ideas. Business continuity, or BC, is more than just disasters, right? There's a huge um, highlighting of what it means when we say recovery and how services can be brought back online. That is the continuousness of our roads and bridges and everything that we almost take for granted, transportation wise. It could be included here. Shipping, all forms of transportation. So also what came into this was a resiliency model, which is a stakeholder-centered approach of disaster recovery, or to disaster recovery, excuse me, resilience for transportation infrastructure and the network itself. So resiliency, also a huge concept in maintaining your services and getting them back online. A few different types of decision support systems do exist, and I want to acknowledge that. You have data driven, like databases, model driven, knowledge driven, and document driven. So in the terms of what types of DSS is appropriate. That's more or less what my research is looking at, with the outcome being business continuity, right? And the uninterruption of services. The mechanism by which would be the processes and training, data and info, sources of information, and the intervention and the context, of course, are listed here in the CMO. This is a systematic review with evidence-based management principles, including different transparency factors in the screening software being used, the quality appraisal tool, Tapupas, the analysis software that's planned to be used for coding, and the search string is included as well, just for brevity and transparency. So it is a truncated version of a bit longer, but the only thing that's missing is the transportation types. So freight, ship, couple words like that, but you get the gist here. 127 articles in total, screened 118. The QA is in progress. As of now, the number in the systematic review of articles or evidence is 37, and I'm looking at 2016 to now. Reason being COVID-19, a huge unprecedented disruption and different from other one-time events like hurricanes because of its longevity, COVID's longevity. So we're still dealing with that and what it means for business continuity. So my research just basically looks at what managers can do to help their posture in terms of keeping their services running, keeping us all safe. Critical transportation managers have a bit of additional responsibility that way because they do keep us safe and keep the economy running. So a bit important, I do think, in terms of the grand scheme of everything, right? Life. This is the bedrock of more or less our economy and the engine that it runs on. So business continuity for the protection of critical transportation infrastructure. My conceptual framework is not yet totally complete. I want to add a few more details here, but you can see the interdependency, I do believe, between these three different pieces, really: CTI, DSS, and managers themselves. All are integral, and the outcome, again, the desired outcome is business continuity. So thank you very much. I appreciate your questions, and thank you very much for listening, and good luck to everyone. Thank you very much.